Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at the second story from the Road to Latin textbook in chapter 44. Now this is called De Orgetorige II. So it's continuing the story that we've seen before about Orgetorix, the Helvetian migration. It's really picking up on book 1 of De Bello Gallico, which is the point, right? It's to introduce you to the story so that the next step could be actually reading De Bello Gallico if you choose, okay? So if you want more information before we dive too far, and you can always find it on my website, if you were to go here, you could find grammar problems, grammar help, notes, videos, vocab, bunch of practice, a bunch of things that will just help you out and hopefully bring the story and the chapter to life a little bit, with just some different things that you can get beyond the just traditional textbooks. So if you want to take a look, it's there for you. Regardless of what you use to practice and prep, the first thing I always tell you before you're about to dive into a story is make sure you have the vocab down really well. This is the second story from chapter 44, so hopefully you feel really confident in it and you've been keeping up with the vocab. But if not, it never hurts to go back, read through the vocab list, practice it, use a Quizlet. If you want to take a look at my site, you can use a GIM kit or a Blue kit, whatever it is you might want. But just make sure that you know the words, because it's really hard to read and understand if you just don't know what the words mean, right? So that should always be the first step. The other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you've looked at the grammar. So even if you're not an expert at it, at least you've looked through and tried to unpack what this grammar is all about. Now, in this chapter, we're diving into indirect statement, which is a little bit tricky, right? It's something that's really important in Latin. You heard me say that in the first video for chapter 44, but it's really important. You see it a lot, and it can be tricky, right? It involves the infinitive, so we learn different forms of the infinitive, the active and passive, the present, perfect, and future. These are all things that you really want to have locked down really well so that when you read this story, you can practice the grammar in context, right? That's the whole idea of Road to Latin. It's a reading method textbook. So the idea is by reading through the stories, you are understanding the grammar and you're getting a lot of practice and exposure to how the grammar works. So if you don't know what the grammar is, it's kind of defeating the purpose of going through each story, because you're just not going to be able to do it really well. So again, vocab, start with the grammar, feel confident, then you'll be ready to actually read through the story. Now, when it comes time for reading, you've heard me say this before, try to read the story aloud. So if you can find someone in class, classmate, read it to them, work on your speaking, your pronunciation, have them read it back to you so you can work on your listening skills. These will always help. You never want to just translate in your head. That's not the best way to do any language, and certainly isn't the best one for Latin. You want to make sure that you're using all parts of your brain, right? So bring it to life, have someone read it to you. And try to speak it yourself, right? Then when it comes time for translating, the read and reread method is the best bet. You read through it, you write down any problem areas that you have in the story. When you're done, you try to figure out where you went wrong, right? If it's vocab, that's really easy. Just look up in a dictionary or in the textbook. You can figure out what the words mean. If it's the grammar, it's probably from this chapter, right? So maybe you were a little off on infinitive, something like that. Just try to figure out where you're going wrong and piece it together and work on it, and then read the story again. And you keep repeating that process over and over until you're able to read through this entire story, start to finish, without any problems, right? You're not writing anything in a list and you understand all of it. That's how you know you're really, really good at the story and the grammar, and you're ready to move on. Okay, so if you haven't done any of that, pause the video, go back and do it. Otherwise, we're going to work our way through the story right now, and you want to try to match up. As long as your translation is somewhere in the vicinity of mine, it never has to be exactly like mine, but use mine as a guidepost to make sure that you're feeling good about yours. Okay, so story starts like this. You have Helvetii hac oratione adducti et auctoritate Orgetorigis per moti omnibus concopiis de finibus suis exire constituerunt. Okay, so the subject here is the Helvetii, right? The Helvetians. And you have two kind of participles here going with them. The first is adducti. So that's the fourth principal part, right? Just by itself. So that means it's a perfect passive participle. You're going to translate it as, having been blanked. That's kind of the easy way to do it. So you're saying the Helvetii, having been influenced, is kind of one way to do adducti, literally like led towards something. So having been influenced by this speech, hac oratione is the ablative, right? By this speech. And it makes sense because you have a passive participle. So we usually use the ablative to show, what's influencing them, right, in this sentence. So the Helvetii, having been influenced by this speech and having been moved, per moti, right, means like emotionally moved is kind of it, and moved by the auctoritate, there's your other ablative, so that's explaining the passive voice of per moti. So moved by the authority, you might say, or the leadership of Orgetorix, right? So they're kind of emotionally moved by him, his charisma, his authority. What did they do? Constituerunt. They decided to leave exire. It's just a complementary infinitive, right? Exire constituerunt. They decided to leave with all their troops omnibus, omnibus cum copiis, right? Cum is the with, omnibus copiis, all their troops, okay? And they decide to leave from finibus suis, from their own lands, their own borders. So they're setting out and they're leaving their own land in Switzerland, okay? Then you have putaverant, necesse esse cum proximis civitatibus pacem et amicitiam confirmare. So here we start with putaverant. This is a head verb, okay? So they thought. So once you have that verb of thinking, you're expecting that you're probably going to see some sort of indirect statement. Okay, and you have it here. So we've been used to the phrase necesse est or necesse erat, right, depending on the tense. Here you have necesse esse. So you have the infinitive with esse, which is telling you that you have an indirect statement here. So you want to say they thought that it was necessary. Necesse esse, you want to translate it was necessary. Now the reason we're doing this is because esse is present tense, the infinitive, and we translate present infinitives as what we call same time infinitives. You might remember that from the previous video we did. So at the same time that they thought this, it was necessary, right? If that kind of makes sense. So you want to put esse into the past tense, even though it's technically a present infinitive. I know that sounds like a lot, but again, if you've worked your way through the grammar, that should make a little bit of sense. So they thought that it was necessary to declare or confirm, you might even say peace, confirmare pacem, to make or confirm peace, and amicitiam, friendship, right? So they want to make peace and friendship with cum proximis civitatibus, with their neighboring, the neighboring city-states, right, or neighboring states, you might say, meaning all the neighboring Gallic tribes around them, okay? Then you have Orgetorix, right, Orgetorix, ipse ad proximas civitates it. So Orgetorix himself, Orgetorix ipse, so there's the intensifier with ipse, right? So Orgetorix himself went, it, right, the double it, it's just perfect tense of ire, so went to the proximas civitates, to the neighboring states. So here is a good example of when you would actually use ipse, right? It's meant to show the fact that it's not just anyone went, Orgetorix himself went, right? So that's kind of a key idea here, is that he himself went there. Okay, then you have this last line in this part. You have ist ad nobiles orationem habuit et coniurationem fecit. So he is, it's a third person pronoun. So he, habuit, means like he had or he held, right? But it almost translates better to like he made something, kind of works a little bit better because it's going with orationem. So he had a speech. It does make sense in English, but it almost means like he made a speech, orationem, ad nobiles, to the nobles, right? So he made a speech to the nobles of the differing tribes, and he made a coniurationem, he made a conspiracy. And this is the big idea of book 1 of De Bello Gallico, right, is Caesar telling about the conspiracy among the nobles that's happening, okay? So the idea is that Orgetorix went there, he convinced the nobles of something with his orationem, with his speech, and he made some sort of conspiracy, and we're going to see what that is as we move forward, okay? So you have Casticus, princeps sequanorum se regnum in civitate sua occupatorum esse confirmavit. So you have Casticus, right? So there's a new character here. Casticus is described as the princeps sequanorum. So he's the chief of the Sequani. That's the neighboring tribe that we mentioned, who are basically to the northwest on the other side of the Jura Mountains from the Helvetii, right? So Casticus, a chief of the Sequani, right? He declared confirmavit. And again, you have confirmavit with esse. So confirmavit, that declaring, is a head verb because he's speaking or saying something. Esse is your infinitive. So now we know it's indirect statement. So he said that. You need an accusative to go with the infinitive. It's going to be say, okay, which means himself. So you put this together. You're saying Casticus, the chief or a chief of the Sequani, he declared that he himself occupatorum esse. I think I said just esse before. It's occupatorum esse. It's a future infinitive. So you translate this, he declared that he would occupy or take the regnum, the kingship, right? That sort of royal authority in civitate sua, in his own state. Okay, so our indirect statement here is confirmavit, head verb, say, that's the accusative, functioning as our subject, and occupatorum esse, which is the future infinitive. Okay, so he said or he declared that he would take or occupy the kingship in his own state. So that's part of the conspiracy. Casticus is going to take control of the Sequani. Then you have Dumnorix, right? And he's described as Iduos. So Dumnorix Iduos, dixit se quoque regnum in sua civitate obtenturum esse. So Dumnorix, the Aeduan, right? And sometimes you see this, the H is really not pronounced, right? It's a ancient Greek letter, which just means you're kind of breathing out. So a lot of times you'll see this without the H. But these are the Aedui, right? Which is the tribe that, if I remember correctly, is west of the Sequani. So it's basically the Sequani's neighbor. So you have Dumnorix, the Aeduan, you might say. He dixit, he said, there's our head verb. So he said that, say, he, that's our accusative, he said that he too, obtenturum esse, would obtain the kingship, the regnum, in sua civitate, in his own state. So you have these three leaders. You have Orgetorix of the Helvetii, he's like, I'm going to take over the Helvetii, Casticus of the Sequani, who's going to take over, right, the Sequani, right, he'll be the leader, and Dumnorix, who says he's going to take over kingship of the Aedui. Okay, then you end with this. You have Orgetorix illis probavit esse facile haec perficere. Okay, so you have all these men kind of claiming their own, what they're going to do, their own piece of the pie here. And you have Orgetorix, he probavit, he approved them, or kind of proved to them, you might say. Probavit, right, it's probably better he proved. He proved to them that haec, these things, esse facile, these things were easy, perficere, to accomplish. It's an indirect statement. All right, so the proving, the probavit is your head verb, esse is your infinitive, haec is your accusative. So he said to them, or proved to them, that these things were easy to accomplish. That's his big sort of speech there. He's like, don't worry about it. This is going to be really easy. And we're going to see why as we continue. Okay? So it keeps going. And you have dixit se suae civitatis imperium obtenturum esse. Tum suis copiis suoque exercitu illis regna se conciliaturum esse confirmavit. So he said, right, you have another head verb, dixit, so it's setting up this indirect statement. He said that, say, he, that's really my subject, right, the accusative. He said that he, obtenturum esse, he would obtain, right? And again, it's the same future infinitive we've seen because they're talking about things that are going to happen. He would obtain imperium, that power, right? That sort of command, you might say, command or power of his own state, suae civitatis. So he's going to take control of his own state, right? Exactly what the other one said. Tum, then, so after he does this, right, confirmavit, he sort of declared that, right, say is where you're going to go again for your accusative here. He said that he, conciliaturum esse, it's another future infinitive. So he declared that he would secure, you might even say, conciliaturum, he would secure the regna, the kingdoms, the rules, right, the kingdoms, for them, illis, suis copiis suoque exercitu. These are how he's going to do it with his own troops, suis copiis, it's ablative, and with his own army, suo exercitu. So he says, I'll show up with my troops, right, all my supplies and my army. So he's telling them that Orgetorix is saying that he'll take control of the Helvetian lands, and then he'll help them with his army. He says, I'll help you take control of yours. That's the conspiracy, right? The three of them are all agreeing to this. Then you end with this. You have he tres nobiles se principatum totius Galliae obtinere posse speraverant. Right? So these three nobles, these three noblemen, right? They speravera, they hoped. There's our head verb, okay? They hoped that say, now here, because say is referring to a plural group. Remember, say can be singular or plural. Here it's referring to the three men. So you're going to say they hoped that they, say, they obtinere posse, right? That they were able, or that they are able, they hope that they are able, posse obtinere, to obtain, right? You almost say like they hope that they could obtain is another way to do it. The principatum, the leadership, totius Galliae, of all Gaul. So that's what these three men are hoping for. They're hoping that together, the three of them will take over all of Gaul because they're going to be leading these three powerful groups and they're helping each other. Okay? Then we end with this this last paragraph here, right? Si brevi tempore Helvetii intellexerunt Orgetorigem coniurationem fecisse et regem fieri sperare. Okay, so brevi tempore, in a short time or soon, the Helvetii, and now here we mean the Helvetian people, not Orgetorix, but all his people. So his people, intellexerunt, they understood. That's your head verb. It's a thinking verb, right? They understood it. They realized, there's kind of a couple ways you could do it, but they realized or understood that Orgetorigem is the accusative we want to use as the subject. They understood that orgetorix, fecisse, it's a perfect infinitive. Orgetorix had made a conjurationem. He had made a conspiracy. Okay, so the Helvetii realized what he's done. They realized that he made a conspiracy, and that well, in other words, he made a conspiracy and he began to hope. So fieri there, right, is the beginning part. He began to sperare, to hope, regem, for the kingship, right? So you have a couple different infinitives kind of cooking all in the same line here. But if you put it together, it's saying that they understood, or they realized that he had made a conspiracy, coniurationem fecisse, and that he began to hope for the kingship, right? Sperare regem. So he wants to be the king, is really what it is, which they are against, right? Like, this guy basically betrayed the state. Then you have crediderunt eum esse hostem. Okay, so that crediderunt means they believed. Again, it's a head verb, right? So you have the infinitive esse and eum as your accusative. So they believed that eum, he, right, it's referring to Orgetorix, he, esse hostem, he was an enemy. Okay, because esse is present tense, it's that same time infinitive. So they believe that he was an enemy. And as a quick side note, to go back, fecisse, that's why we wanted to translate it as he had made a conspiracy. Remember, the perfect is something that happened before the main verb. So intellexerunt is perfect tense. The perfect infinitive has to go to pluperfect. This is what we're talking about, switching some of the tenses around. Okay, so they believed that he was an enemy. Itaque constituerunt necesse esse supplicio eum afficere. And so, constituerunt, they decided, there's our head verb, they decided that it was necessary, necesse esse, there's our infinitive, the it is kind of implied, right? It was necessary, afficere eum, to afflict him, meaning Orgetorix, supplicio, with punishment. Okay, so they decided that they need to punish him because he's off having this conspiracy and betraying the state. Then you have sed Paulo post orgetorix perterritus de vita decessit. So, but a Paulo post means like a short time or a little while after, right? A little after or a little later, you might say. But a little while after, Orgetorix, right? Orgetorix perterritus, terrified, right? So it's describing him as perterritus. So terrified Orgetorix, when he finds out kind of what happened here, he decessit de vita. So this is sort of an idiom in Latin that means literally something like he departed from life, right? He died is the idea, right? So you have this little bit of a euphemism, right, in here for someone dying. So he departed from life, right? So a little while later, he's dead. And then we end with this line. You have omnes senserunt eum sibi mortem concevisse. Okay, so everyone, omnes just means all here, everyone. Everyone felt or thought, senserunt, there's your head verb, right? So they felt that he, eum, there's our accusative, right? That he had literally had committed suicide, is the translation the book gives you. I know, a bit of a downer, but that is what happened. The concevisse is perfect tense. That's why you're saying he had done this, because again, senserunt is perfect. Going with a perfect infinitive, you have to make it a little step behind or before perfect, which is pluperfect, okay? Because the infinitive happened before the main verb. So literally, it means something like he had kind of given or brought on death to himself, is what sibi mortem concevisse means. But the idiom there, or the euphemism, is that he committed suicide, right? He had killed himself. Okay, and this is again right out of De Bello Gallico, book 1, right? So if you ever read it, you can talk more in depth about what happened to Orgetorix, but he died, right? Very suspiciously, he dies. Okay, so that's it for chapter 44 in this, the second story. Okay, so we see sort of the rise and fall of Orgetorix and how he gets tied up in this conspiracy. His people allegedly find out, according to Caesar, and before you know it, he's dead, right? And it's very suspicious if you read De Bello Gallico on how he died. But the reason this is another good story to read through for chapter 44 is it's filled with indirect statements. So you get a lot of the repetition of present infinitives, future infinitives, perfect ones. They're all kind of blending together, since almost the entire story is indirect statement. So if you're able to read through this and understand what's going on, you probably have a really good sense of how this all works, and you're in a good place. If not, like I said, just keep practicing, keep at it until you feel really comfortable and you're able to translate the story all the way through. That's how you know you're in a really good place, okay? So keep at it. Let me know if you have any problems at all. Feel free to put them in the comments below. I'm happy to help you. But otherwise, keep practicing, and you will eventually hit that point. Good luck.